To the jungle, we got fun and games.
The song is actually built into the movie's title, guys.
This is fun. Okay, guys, so we are back. Happy New Year. It's 2018 now.
Yeah, it's 2018, but we're seeing a movie that came out in 2017.
Isn't that funny, you know? Because that's how time works. And there are no movies that we are really interested in coming out this week. We saw Greatest Showman, by the way.
It's okay.
It's okay. But we're not talking about that. Today, we are talking about one of the last big comedies to come out of 2017. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about Jumanji 2.
Welcome to the jungle.
So, I'm sure you're all kind of wondering, anyone who watches these videos is kind of wondering, I mean, StillerBros, you guys talk about your history with certain franchises for years and over years and all kinds of other stuff. What's your history with Jumanji? Not much.
We didn't really watch it until after Robin Williams passed away.
And even then, it's not really a movie we've essentially one of Robin Williams' movies we've essentially latched onto. Okay, it's a good movie. It's fun and everything like that. It's like Robin Williams, as always, was a national treasure, and
despite the fact that he did absolutely nothing funny in that movie whatsoever.
Yeah, that was basically a Robin Williams depression movie with the added benefit of it being a kids movie. But overall, Jumanji is known as a classic. Joe Johnston directed the original, who would later go on to direct the first Captain America movie. But now in this world of reboots and remakes and sequels and equals to movies that we never thought would get sequels, Jumanji has its own. What is it? A remake, reboot, sequel? It's a sequel. They've pretty much explicitly stated it's a continuation. They're not really locked into what way, but it's a continuation.
It was also very controversial when the announcement was made. But they had to make it very clear it is a continuation. They are not erasing the Robin Williams movie from history.
Now, who is in this movie to take on the comedic power of Robin Williams? Dwayne Johnson, Kevin Hart, Jack Black, Karen Gillan. These are actors we know can do some really good stuff. Dwayne Johnson is hilarious when you put him in the right situations, and he's charismatic as hell, so we know that. Jack Black is one of the greatest, is a great comedian that we don't see a lot anymore, and I'm kind of bummed, and I kind of get bummed every time I remember that.
Yeah, but he was everywhere when we were kids, and now we're not seeing much of him anymore.
I mean, I'm sure he's got his reasons, but I kind of miss Jack Black. Kevin Hart has been everywhere, and we have not been big fans of Kevin Hart's. I mean, we've seen like one movie he's ever been in, all of the times he's hosted SNL, a couple of his more famous stand-up jokes, but we got nothing against the guy.
No, nothing against the guy. It's just he's not exactly our brand of humor.
I mean, he is pretty funny, but but he's not exactly the kind of guy we gravitate towards, so we understand it. Karen Gillan, well, Guardians of the Galaxy and Doctor Who, so
she's got her nerd cred.
Yeah, all of that. The movie is being directed by Jake Kasdan, who is kind of from a pedigree of his own, being the son of Star Wars writer Lawrence Kasdan.
Although he's also mainly done comedies at this point.
Yeah, he has directed Bad Teacher and Sex Tape. Not exactly ones to go with when it comes to quality, but he did those movies, and that's all we need to really say about that, because he's directing this movie, he's co-writing it. He directed it. Even I have a better movie to talk about. He wrote and directed Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story.
Oh yeah, the best movie he's directed so far, unless this is actually better. We'll see.
But that movie pretty much cemented him as a comedic director. Then he started doing other movies like Bad Teacher and Sex Tape. But now, this might be the movie to show that he has actual cred, like his dad and brother, who we will be talking about later this year in the Han Solo movie.
Yes.
But Jumanji. Reviews for this one have been pretty good. And this is a late review, so we might actually talk about spoilers as we get to the second half of this, because why not? Anyone who wants to see this has probably seen it already.
Yeah.
So anyway, you got anything else to say?
I got nothing else to say.
All right. So we will see you guys after the jump. So that was really good, actually.
I really liked that.
Yeah, there was more dick jokes than I was prepared for, honestly.
Yeah.
And that was just the scenes I saw. Mason did not see near as much. Mason left the theater for a second, and
I missed a dick joke.
you missed quite the scene. That was surprisingly funny. But overall, I think that was a pretty good movie.
I had fun.
Yeah, I had fun. I found it kind of interesting that it was basic. That's for the beginning. It was basically felt like an old school '90s movie.
And then we jump into Jumanji, and it's suddenly a 2000s action comedy,
which is good. It's a regular action movie. Karen Gillan and Dwayne Johnson would probably still be in it, but maybe Jack Black and Kevin Hart would stick around to actually be the comic relief characters. But
that just sounds like that just sounds like Jack Johnson in the Tom Cruise Mummy movie.
Okay, but
that's what that sounds like to me. If they just did that, but I don't know.
But overall, I think this is a really solid action comedy. I mean, when it comes to action comedies, it's no Jump Street, but I still really like it. So let's get into it. Jack Black and Dwayne Johnson basically run the show with this because they're playing outside of their elements. At a certain point, when I was watching all the TV spots for this movie, I was like, is Jack Black going to do that voice the whole movie? And he did, and I found it really hilarious that he would stay completely in character throughout the majority of the movie.
And then we have Karen Gillan playing this shy, introverted girl, and she plays it really well.
And there's a particular scene between her and Dwayne Johnson's character where I was just like, oh my god, they are playing these two incredibly charismatic actors who know what they're doing, are really playing this awkward scene well. I don't usually like awkward scenes because I feel awkward for the characters, but they played it. But this was actually really, really funny.
Yeah, and then Kevin Hart is really funny in this.
Yeah, even though he's playing the same shtick, you can't argue that Kevin Hart is bad at it. This shtick, there's a reason he's become one of the top comedians of the last few years.
Yeah.
He plays the shtick. His shtick is basically the same no matter how you slice it. The tiny little tough talking loud black guy, but let's face it, he plays it so well and it's so funny. That it makes that it's not like it hurt, that he's never intolerable.
We have Nick Jonas, who is freaking phenomenal in this movie.
He doesn't get a lot of jokes, but
I really liked him in this.
Yeah, overall, I really thought Nick Jonas did a good job with what he was given.
Especially with the emotional bits his character has. It definitely was a good role, and he did great in it.
Yeah, and then I don't know. I kept forgetting the villain was there. Bobby Cannavale
plays the villain, Van Pelt,
and which is
different Van Pelt from the first movie,
of course, because definitely not the same actor. But I kept forgetting he was there, honestly, because he was just kind of an afterthought. Overall,
which kind of makes sense because he's the villain in a video game, so we don't get to see a lot of scenes with the villain.
We do see some scenes with the villain, which are kind of interesting because in a video game, wouldn't you focus on the main characters? But I don't mind it. It's because we're still playing, but because we still have to kind of play by movie logic in a few ways.
Yeah.
And overall, but I think my biggest problem was that the villain was kind of an afterthought. It was more the adventure that was kind of the thing. But then again, that's kind of a thing with the original Jumanji too. The original Van Pelt was kind of an afterthought because he didn't show up until like halfway through the movie to start building tension.
And even then, although in that movie Van Pelt was kind of an interesting character because they had his dad, the same actor who played Robin Williams' character's dad, also played Van Pelt, so there was like a duality there.
Yeah, if in this case Van Pelt was played by the exact same actor who played like the principal or something, it would be different. But they cast two different actors, so
Van Pelt's just an afterthought.
So Van Pelt is just a character in the game. He's just a game character. There's nothing big to him. There's nothing that really drags into the. There's no real duality that drags into the real world and shows these character arcs. But I kind of liked the arcs of these characters. I mean, we had Jack Black's character learning to learning that looks aren't everything, and also apparently really learning to like, and also kind of growing the interesting idea comedically. She just finds the body kind of interesting.
We got this really interesting scene and funny scene between Karen Gillan and Jack Black's characters that really demonstrates the awkwardness inside of Karen Gillan's character.
While Jack Black is just going all out. I don't know how Jack Black learned to play teenage girl so well, but he somehow nails it, and it's hilarious to watch him give Karen Gillan pointers on how to be a beautiful woman.
We have Dwayne Johnson playing what's essentially a Mary Sue.
Yeah,
except there's a reason he's a Mary Sue, so...
Because he's the main character. He's the main character of the game, and so he's literally given absolutely no weaknesses. And that's kind of the joke. And also, he's Dwayne Johnson, so he's going to be the big, burly, I'm the powerful guy. But the joke is that they offshoot it by actually having him play the guy who is in reality the scrawny nerd.
Yeah, in fact, I think they're all all the characters are kind of Mary Sue's in the definition of Mary Sue, where they just all have these skills that just no explanation as to why they have these skills.
But that's kind of the hook for them. Because it's a video game, we don't get a lot of backstory. We just drop them into the game, start the gameplay. That's kind of the thing. And the Jumanji game game mechanics are actually kind of interesting, and we kind of get as we jump from one level to another, it kind of gives interesting kind of tasks. Granted, they're not real game mechanics of any kind, but it's interesting. And
also, the writing in the game kind of sucks.
Yeah,
where they'd start off immediately with an exposition dump.
Yeah, this is
with Restarbase basically playing Restarbase.
Yeah, and so you can kind of tell that this is a video game written in 1996. That the video game's version is kind of written in 1996. Overall, the whole movie had a lot of great humor built around certain things. For some reason, I always one of my favorite parts of the movie. One of the parts that I laughed the most at in certain places was weirdly Kevin Hart getting hurt. But then again, maybe it's just because Kevin Hart does one of Kevin Hart's biggest strengths as a comedic actor is his reactions.
He's a great physical comedian. When it comes to physical reactions, he knows how to do it as a comedic actor. He's not afraid to get physical. He's not afraid to shout. He's not afraid to do a lot of different physical stuff. Like for instance in Ride Along, where there's a scene in the trailer, we haven't actually seen the movie, where he gets blown back by a shotgun.
Overall, his reaction, Kevin Hart is. When it comes to Kevin Hart, his biggest strength is, and as an actor, is the way he comedically reacts to certain things, and so that's where the fun of it is, and that's why we get that's why we get good laughs from things. And I think the ending of the movie overall is kind of giving us the closure we need. Kind of gives us the closure we need.
It's a standalone movie. You don't even need to see the first Jumanji to get this movie.
There's one little Easter egg to Robin Williams' character, and it's such a simple Easter. And it's an Easter egg so simple that anyone could probably.
You still don't even need to see the first movie to get it. It's just a little. See what you did there.
In fact, one of the things I liked about how it was that when you actually look at the game map at the end of the movie, you can see it's actually the board game.
Yeah.
It's actually the layout of the board game. I really liked that aesthetic when I finally realized it.
Yeah.
And Jake Kasdan did a surprisingly good job directing the action, which I found kind of weird because the biggest action scene we've seen of him was in Bad Teacher when Eric Stonestreet basically playing the usual Melissa McCarthy, Zach Galifianakis character, rammed himself into a car with a scooter, and we laughed so hard because
That's the only scene in the movie where we got a huge laugh out of us.
yeah. But overall, I think Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle is a solid action comedy. Is it the best action comedy ever made? No, not really.
Does it have the nostalgia value of the original movie? No, not really.
Maybe a little bit. I mean, if you
end up growing up with this, then yeah, probably.
I mean, once again, I thought when we were looking at the beginning and end of the movie, I felt like this was a movie that could have been made in the 90s. It just happened to be made in 2017 rather than 1990 something.
Yeah.
And I thought that was great. And when it moved into Jumanji, it was clearly an adventure movie with the addition of a lot of the fact that these are that this is a comedy because they're in the wrong bodies. But
Yeah, it's where most of the comedy came from, and it's fun, and it's kind of funny.
Was it the best movie we've seen of 2017? No, that not.
I would find it really hard to pin that down, really.
But
Looking at it.
But once again, overall, Jumanji, it's a really solid movie. If you have not seen it yet, then definitely go check it out if you really liked the first one and you really like all these, and you really like high-flying slapstick action comedies, then yeah, go give it a watch.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, so that is it for right now. So, be sure to like, favorite, and subscribe, and don't forget to tune in next time when we go for a little run.
A final run, if you will.
Oh yeah. Bye.
Bye.